Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. أما بعد قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين صدق الله العظيم. My very respected brothers and sisters, I pray to Allah to accept our fast which we have completed so far in this blessed month of Ramadan, and I pray to Him to enable us to complete the remaining days of this month, the remaining days inshallah. I pray to Allah to help us to draw near to Him, to help us to develop taqwa and piety through fasting and prayers and charity which we are giving, and to enable us to follow His guidance in all of our affairs and help us to make the right decisions in our everyday actions. I also pray to Allah to help us to bring peace and justice to our societies and the world, and to enlighten the world with His revealed guidance. Brothers and sisters, the topic for today is the importance of Dawah. Why Muslims have been enjoined to be engaged in the work of Dawah. When we read the Quran Majid, we will see that the Quran Majid emphasizes a great deal on the work of Dawah. If you read the Quran again and again, it encourages us to call people to God's way, to spread khair, goodness in society, to propagate the message of Allah, to propagate the values, the principles of Islam, so that we can check wrongs and maintain balance and justice in our society, and to strive our utmost to reform and improve society, so that ma'ruf, goodness, becomes dominant and munkar, wrong and immoral ways of conduct are blocked or reduced in society. So Dawah, when I read when I read the Quran and when I read the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, begin to see that Dawah is really should be a priority in a Muslim's life. It is the most obvious sunnah of all the prophets of God. All the companions of God also made Dawah a priority, and they invited people to Allah's way at every opportunity they found. This is why Islam from one single person reached every continent on this earth within 50 years, because each and every one of the early Muslims were active in the work of Dawah, constantly working to reach out to new people and inviting them to God's way. It says, Allah says in the Quran Majid, Ya ayyuhar rasulu balligh ma unzila ilayka min rabbik. O Messenger, O Rasul, convey what was revealed to you from your Lord. And he goes on to say, but if you do not, then you would not have delivered the message. Don't worry about people. Allah will protect you from the people. God does not guide the disbelieving people. So the prophets were encouraged and ordered by Allah to go and convey the message. And the verse which I recited at the beginning of my talk, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. And who is better in speech than the one who calls to Allah, the one who does righteous deeds, acts by what he's calling to Allah, and says, I am a Muslim. And the prophets were told that people go and warn your tribes and the close ones. And Hazrat Nuh al-Islam says in the Quran, Oh Allah, I called them loudly and openly. Further, I spoke to them in public, and I also appealed to them secretly in private. I used every method to reach out to people. And Allah says to Hazrat Musa al-Islam and Hazrat Harun al-Islam, Allah says, both of you go to Pharaoh, for he has indeed transgressed all bounds. So all the prophets of God were asked to go and talk to people, invite them actively, and so did their followers did the same. Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah, and call to the way of your Lord with wisdom. So this calling is an order in the Quran again and again in different ways. And when we look at the ahadith, the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ, we also find the same. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever calls others to guidance will receive the same reward as the one who follows him without any decrease in reward of his followers. And again the Prophet ﷺ said, for Allah to guide someone by your hand is better for you than having red camels. Now red camels were considered something very valuable in those days. Prophet ﷺ said, Ballegu law anni ayah, convey from me even if it's one ayat. So when we look at the Prophet's life example, when we look at his teachings, when we look at his sayings, again and again he's encouraging people to call people to the way of God. So the question which I would like us all to reflect on is, why is Dawah so much emphasized? For me, when I reflect over this, when I reflect over history, when I reflect over Quranic verses, I've come to the conclusion that without Allah's guidance, people will be deprived of great good. People will tend to fall for their personal interest, rooted on their personal likes and dislikes, their greed, their ambition, their selfishness or other emotions and desires. So when humans make decisions, when they make choices, it is always based on limited information and limited knowledge. And then that information and knowledge, which is limited by itself, is further underpinned by their emotions and by their desires. And all these frame how they make decisions. So generally humans look for immediate results, immediate gains and immediate achievements. And this approach to decision making, keeping their immediate gains in mind, it impacts their choices, their behaviors and their priorities. So if these are not guided by universal values and principles, then humans will be prone to making decisions or taking actions that may lead to results and gains and achievements which they wanted. However, this would impact negatively on others and may cause harm to other people. So we may gain, but others could lose because of the way we made decisions. So this is why, because of this approach to making decisions without being guided by universal values, beliefs and principles, we are facing today ecological problems. We are facing economic problems. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And we see so much social imbalance and injustice in society. It's the way humans conduct themselves. It's the frames which they use to help and guide themselves. So this is why today in our economy, if we look at our economy, it's dominated by people who are placed profit, their immediate gains before other people and before the stewardship of the planet. We see that the economy is dominated by people who want to maximize their profits rather than think about the fair distribution of wealth and sharing this wealth with other people. So this kind of approach not only destroys the environment, not only makes some people rich and some people, but it roots so many problems and injustices in society. So it leads to a win-lose situation. Some gain and other people lose. Some begin to dominate the earth while others become enslaved, exploited and oppressed, and their property and their rights are usurped. So this is what's happening in the world. So our decisions and likes and dislikes also lead to tensions between people and conflicts at times. So if we look at what's happening around the world, we see so many injustices. It's because the way we made decisions and the frameworks we have used to guide our behaviors and our decision-making processes. Look at the Muslims in Burma. What was their crime? They were driven out from their homes and they were left as refugees. Look at the Muslims in China. Millions are being persecuted. See what is simmering now in Sri Lanka and what is happening in India. Far-right Hindu nationalism is on the rise and they're spreading hatred against the Muslims. What happened to the Muslims in the Balkans not so long ago? And what happened to the Muslims in Sicily and in Spain and in so many other places of the world? Not only to Muslims, but more generally, we will see that there are economic injustices and fascism. These things are rising in the world. Hate for people who are different from ourselves is increasing. Far-right movements are spreading hate and conflicts are on the rise everywhere. So if we look around and see how humans are wronging other human beings, we will see so many examples of this. We will see how the rich and the powerful are exploiting and oppressing the weak and the poor people. We will see how humans are killing humans through wars, through economic sanctions, through unfair trade, through exploitation, through polluting and plundering and destroying the environment, and through pursuing their own selfish interests at the cost of others. Zaharul fasadu fil barri wal bahr, and corruption has appeared on land and sea. And this we see repeated throughout history. Every age you will see that certain human beings become so powerful that they become the gods of this earth, and they spread wrong and oppression on this earth. Allah says in the Quran, indeed there have so many examples before you. You just need to look around, read history, look at the world today. It says in the Quran, therefore travel in the earth and see what was the end of those who rejected. They destroyed themselves and they destroyed other people. So in contrast to all this, if we use God's guidance to frame our thinking, if we use God's guidance, then human thinking will be different. This guidance will help us to rise. It will help to rise people and their communities above their selfish interest, their greed, their selfishness, their national, their tribal, their personal interest. And it will help us to think about other people and the impact of our decisions and behaviors on them. And it will help us to bring justice and human dignity into the thinking and decision-making processes. So through this way, we'll be able to build a more just and better world. And Allah says in the Quran, he whom Allah guides is rightly guided, but he whom Allah leaves astray, never will you find for him a protecting guide. And Allah is the best guide. So dawah, inviting people to Allah's way, inviting people to Allah's guidance, ensures a future for all human beings. It helps to keep people and society within a moral and just framework, so that all human beings benefit. And by discarding dawah, we will leave the door to evil wide open. And this will gradually lead to the destruction of a community or a society. So we therefore have no choice but to reach out and give dawah and make Islam friendly society wherever we are. So this is why dawah is so important. And dawah is about reaching out to our fellow human beings and inviting them to join you in the path of Allah. So it's not inviting people to a few abstract principles and beliefs, but it's actively asking them to join you in the path of Allah, in the path of morality, and in the path of justice. So it's not about converting people, but asking people to join you in this good work. Dawah is about inviting people to live by Allah's guidance and to strive for justice and human well-being in the whole world. So dawah is not about few activities in the year. It's not about inviting people to the masjid and listening to a few speeches, but dawah should be part of our everyday lives, and we should seek out opportunities to meet people and communicate Allah's message and actively invite them to God's way. So in summary, dawah is the greatest service we can do to our community and to humanity. It is better service than even building mosques and doing relief work, because it is about ensuring our future. So it's time to awaken ourselves. Listen to the call of the Quran, which we read every day. Reflect over the stories of the prophets and how they worked and how they tried to save their societies and to engage in this dawah mission. So let us keep a few people who we work with or study with or who live in our neighborhood. Let's try to approach these people with the message of hope, with the message of Islam, with the message for a better and just society for all people. A society where domination and exploitation by a few of the few, we will eradicate, so that we can bring justice for the many, for all the people, where all humans are valued and treated fairly through Allah's way. So I hope that this reminder about dawah and why this dawah is so important will help us to will help to motivate ourselves, so that we can start planning and thinking deeply of how we are going to fulfill this duty and responsibility which the Quran Majid lays on us. If we all become active in the work of dawah, you will see slowly Islamophobia will fade away. People will become more positive about Islam. British society will become more Islam friendly, and people will respond to the call of Islam. So I pray Allah helps us to draw from His guidance, that Allah helps us to be active in the work of dawah, so that we can be successful in this world and in the world hereafter. Jazakallah khairan for listening. Aqulu qawli haza wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum.